1799, the Rosetta Stone is found during Napoleon Bonaparte's Egyptian campaign.
For 2 centuries, the Rosetta Stone unlocked ancient Egypt's secrets. Scholars believed they understood every word carved into its surface.
And over here is the Rosetta Stone. It was the key to understanding Egyptian hieroglyphics, and it is one of the most precious and valuable treasures.
Then, artificial intelligence analyzed the inscriptions using pattern recognition no human possesses. What it found contradicts 200 years of translation. The 3 scripts don't say the same thing. Entire meanings were missed. Some experts now question whether we ever truly decoded it at all. And what that means for everything we think we know about ancient Egypt is deeply troubling. The Rosetta Stone's story began in 1799, when French soldiers rebuilding a fort near the Egyptian town of Rosetta unearthed a massive slab of granodiorite. Weighing over 760 kilograms, the stone appeared unremarkable at first, just another fragment of Egypt's ancient past. But when scholars examined the surface, they realized what they held. 3 distinct scripts covered the stone's face. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs at the top, demotic script, a cursive form of Egyptian writing, in the middle, and ancient Greek at the bottom. The same decree, issued in 196 BC during the reign of King Ptolemy V, repeated 3 times in 3 different languages. The discovery's significance was immediate. For centuries, Egyptian hieroglyphs had been an impenetrable mystery. After the fall of Egypt's last temples around the 4th century AD, the knowledge of how to read the sacred script vanished. Countless monuments, tombs, and papyri remained covered in beautiful, incomprehensible symbols. An entire civilization had been rendered mute. But the Rosetta Stone changed everything. Because scholars could read ancient Greek, they finally had a reference point. A translation key. If the same text appeared in both Greek and hieroglyphs, comparison might reveal how the Egyptian writing system worked. The breakthrough came in 1822 when French linguist Jean-François Champollion achieved what many thought impossible. Through painstaking analysis, he demonstrated that hieroglyphs weren't merely decorative pictures. They represented a sophisticated system combining phonetic sounds with symbolic meanings and ideograms. His revelation opened ancient Egypt to modern understanding. From that moment, the Rosetta Stone became the foundation upon which Egyptology was built. Scholars used Champollion's framework to translate temple inscriptions, funerary texts, administrative records, and religious hymns. An entire lost world came back to life. Kings spoke again. Gods received prayers. The dead told their stories. For 2 centuries, this achievement stood unchallenged. The Rosetta Stone had done its job. The mystery was solved. Egyptologists refined translations, debated interpretations, and expanded knowledge. But the fundamental framework remained solid. Until artificial intelligence entered the picture. Modern algorithms possess capabilities that 19th century scholars couldn't imagine. Pattern recognition across millions of data points. Linguistic analysis, detecting micro-variations invisible to human eyes. Reconstruction of damaged or missing text using probabilistic modeling. When researchers applied these tools to the Rosetta Stone, they expected confirmation of existing translations. What they found instead raised questions that scholars had never thought to ask. The 3 scripts that supposedly said the same thing contained subtle but significant differences. Not copying errors or stylistic variations, deliberate alterations that suggested something far more complex than simple translation. And that discovery was just the beginning. Artificial intelligence has transformed how researchers study ancient texts. Unlike human scholars limited by time, fatigue, and cognitive bias, Machine learning algorithms can process massive datasets simultaneously. They detect patterns across millions of linguistic samples, identifying connections that might take human experts decades to notice, if they notice them at all. The technology has already proven its value. AI systems have reconstructed fragmented Dead Sea Scrolls by analyzing writing patterns and ink composition. Algorithms have deciphered damaged cuneiform tablets, predicting missing portions with startling accuracy. Neural networks have mapped relationships between ancient languages, revealing how civilizations influenced each other across centuries. When applied to the Rosetta Stone, researchers expected the AI to confirm existing translations. After all, Champollion's work had been verified, refined, and built upon for 200 years. The stone's message seemed settled. But AI doesn't approach texts with assumptions. It analyzes structure, frequency, pattern, and correlation without preconceptions about what should be there. And that objective analysis revealed something unexpected. The algorithms detected inconsistencies among the three scripts, subtle variations in terminology, emphasis, and phrasing. Differences that earlier scholars had dismissed as inevitable quirks of translation between languages. But when AI compared these variations against thousands of other bilingual inscriptions from the same period, a troubling pattern emerged. The discrepancies weren't random. They were systematic, deliberate. The first anomaly appeared in the Greek text, where descriptions of King Ptolemy V emphasized administrative virtues and political reforms, and what it revealed was just the beginning. For centuries, scholars operated under a fundamental assumption. The Rosetta Stone's three scripts contained identical messages, the same royal decree, simply written in different languages to reach different audiences. Greek for the ruling class. Analysis demotic shattered for that everyday assumption. Egyptians. The machine learning hieroglyphs detected significant variations in how King Ptolemy V was portrayed across the three texts. In the Greek version, the young pharaoh appeared as a rational administrator. The language emphasized his political reforms, tax reductions, and legal decisions, virtues that would resonate with Greek-speaking bureaucrats who valued civic order and philosophical governance. But the hieroglyphic text told a different story. The Egyptian script went far beyond political achievements. It layered divine associations throughout the decree, linking Ptolemy directly to gods like Horus and Ra. The king wasn't merely a competent ruler. He was a living manifestation of divine will, chosen by the gods to maintain cosmic balance between heaven and earth. Sacred language appeared that had no equivalent in the Greek version. The demotic text fell somewhere between, blending political accomplishment with religious legitimacy in proportions carefully calibrated for Egypt's middle classes. These weren't translation errors. The variations were too consistent, too strategic. Each version of the decree had been deliberately crafted to address its intended audience's cultural expectations and belief systems. The Greek elite received reassurance of stable governance. Egyptian priests received confirmation of sacred kingship. The general population received a message that balanced both. What historians had assumed was simple translation turned out to be sophisticated propaganda. A carefully engineered communication strategy designed to maintain control over a culturally divided kingdom. If the translations differed in fundamental ways, what else had scholars missed? The hieroglyphs contained something even more unsettling. The hieroglyphic script carved into the Rosetta Stone operates on multiple levels simultaneously. AI analysis revealed what human translators had long suspected but couldn't fully quantify. Each symbol functioned in at least three ways at once. First, the phonetic level. Certain hieroglyphs represented sounds, much like letters in an alphabet. These allowed scribes to spell out names and foreign words that had no existing Egyptian symbols. Second, the symbolic level. Many signs carried meanings beyond their sounds. A sun disk didn't just represent the sound Ra, it invoked the sun god Ra himself, embedding theological significance into seemingly mundane text. Third, the ideographic level. Some hieroglyphs represented entire concepts. A seated figure holding a staff meant official or authority without needing to be pronounced at all. But AI detected something deeper. The physical arrangement of symbols created patterns. Certain clusters of hieroglyphs formed geometric relationships that mirrored Egyptian concepts of cosmic order and divine balance. The layout wasn't arbitrary. It was architectural, visual theology rendered in stone. Even artistic details carried meaning. The direction an animal-shaped hieroglyph faced could alter interpretation. The curve of a feather, the position of a hand, the orientation of an eye. Each variation potentially shifted meaning in ways that only trained priest scribes would recognize. This wasn't simply an ancient writing system. It was a multi-layered code where aesthetics, theology, and linguistics intertwined inseparably. A language designed to communicate on multiple frequencies at once, with certain messages visible only to initiates who understood all three levels simultaneously. But the deeper AI looked, the stranger it became. The dating didn't match. Something was wrong with time itself. The Rosetta Stone carries an official date, 196 BC, during the 9th year of King Ptolemy V's reign. The decree itself states this clearly in all three scripts. For 2 centuries, scholars accepted this dating without question. Then AI linguistic analysis detected grammatical inconsistencies within the hieroglyphic text itself. The algorithms identified word choices and sentence structures that belonged to different periods of Egyptian language development. Some phrases used archaic forms not commonly seen after 300 BC. Others employed contemporary constructions typical of the Ptolemaic era. The variations appeared throughout the text, suggesting the stone wasn't composed by a single scribe at a single moment. Several explanations emerged. The stone might have been carved in stages, with different sections completed at different times. Or later, artisans might have restored damaged portions using slightly different linguistic conventions. The most intriguing possibility involved deliberate archaism, where priests intentionally employed ancient language forms to lend the decree an aura of timeless authority, connecting Ptolemy V to Egypt's pharaonic past. This practice wasn't uncommon in sacred or ceremonial texts. Scribes often blended old and new to create a sense of continuity between contemporary rulers and the gods who supposedly ordained them centuries earlier. But the implications troubled researchers. If the stone's language was layered across time, what else about its creation remained uncertain? And entire sections were missing. Deliberately erased or simply lost to centuries of erosion? What AI reconstructed from the gaps was deeply troubling. The Rosetta Stone, as it exists today, is incomplete. Large portions of the top and sides have eroded away or broken off over the centuries. Traditional scholars filled these gaps through educated guesses, comparing the surviving text with similar royal decrees from the same period. When AI attempted its own reconstruction, the results diverged from human predictions in significant ways. The algorithms analyzed the stone against hundreds of other Ptolemaic inscriptions, searching for grammatical patterns and thematic consistency. In most cases, AI predictions aligned with existing scholarly reconstructions. But in several critical areas, particularly near the top of the hieroglyphic section, the machine learning models proposed entirely different readings. The missing portions likely contained ritual invocations to Egyptian deities, standard practice for official decrees. But AI suggested the theological language may have been far more complex than previously assumed. The reconstruction indicated unconventional arrangements of divine names and formulaic expressions that didn't match typical patterns from other monuments. These predictions remain hypothetical without the actual missing fragments. But they raise uncomfortable questions. Were these sections damaged by natural erosion and accidental breakage over 2 millennia? Or had someone, at some point in the stone's history, deliberately removed portions they didn't want preserved? The missing words might have contained warnings, restrictions, or theological claims too controversial to survive. But what remained told a political story that changes everything. The Rosetta Stone was created during a period of profound instability. Egypt had been ruled by Greek pharaohs for over a century, creating cultural tensions between the native Egyptian population and their foreign overlords. Ptolemy V inherited the throne as a child, facing rebellions and challenges to his legitimacy from multiple directions. The decree carved into the stone served a clear political purpose: unite a fractured kingdom under one ruler by speaking to each group in their own cultural language. To Greeks, Ptolemy appeared as a philosopher-king embodying rational governance. To Egyptians, he manifested as a god-chosen pharaoh continuing traditions stretching back millennia. Each community heard exactly what it needed to hear to maintain social order and accept his authority. AI analysis revealed just how precisely calibrated this messaging was. The priests who composed the decree weren't passive recorders of historical events. They were power brokers, actively shaping political reality. They controlled the narrative by controlling the inscriptions that would survive for eternity. This wasn't history. It was engineered perception, ancient information warfare carved in stone. And the institution that currently guards this artifact has reasons to control what the public understands about it. The British Museum controversy reveals even darker truths about who decides what history means. The Rosetta Stone has resided in the British Museum since 1802, taken from French forces who had claimed it during Napoleon's Egyptian campaign. To many Egyptians, the stone represents more than lost heritage. It symbolizes colonial appropriation of their voice and identity. For decades, the British Museum maintained that physical possession ensured the artifact's safety and accessibility to global scholars. But AI technology has fundamentally altered that argument. High-resolution 3D imaging and machine learning analysis can now be performed remotely. Researchers in Cairo, Paris, or anywhere with proper software can study the stone's inscriptions in extraordinary detail without needing the physical object. The technological democratization of access challenges the museum's core justification for retention. Egyptian scholars have begun arguing that their cultural familiarity provides interpretive advantages that Western academics might miss. Deep understanding of Egyptian linguistic evolution, religious symbolism, and historical context could reveal meanings that foreign researchers overlook, regardless of technical expertise. Those who possess the artifact control which interpretations gain prominence and which get marginalized. But the controversy runs deeper than institutional politics. The original translation that launched Egyptology contained errors no one wanted to admit. Champollion's mistakes shaped 200 years of scholarly authority built on flawed foundations. Jean-François Champollion's 1822 breakthrough remains one of history's greatest intellectual achievements, but 2 centuries later, AI analysis has identified small yet meaningful inaccuracies in his foundational work. Champollion faced enormous challenges. He worked with damaged texts, limited comparative examples, and no comprehensive understanding of Egyptian grammar's full complexity. Modern algorithms, by contrast, can analyze thousands of hieroglyphic inscriptions collected since his death, detecting patterns across massive data sets. The AI identified passages where Champollion's interpretations were influenced by Greek and Latin grammatical structures, leading to subtle distortions. He sometimes rendered metaphorical or theological language too literally, missing layers of symbolic meaning that would only become apparent through comparison with later discoveries. These errors weren't failures of genius, they were limitations of available data. But because his framework became the standard reference for all subsequent Egyptian translation, every scholar who built upon his work inherited the same structural assumptions. The cornerstone of Egyptology had hairline fractures from the beginning, and beneath the political text lay religious secrets that those fractures had obscured. What the priests encoded was never meant to be found by outsiders. AI pattern recognition revealed something scholars had suspected but couldn't prove. The Rosetta Stone's hieroglyphic text contains embedded references that align precisely with sacred hymns, temple inscriptions, and mythological narratives from Egypt's religious tradition. Certain phrases echo the myth of Horus and Set, the eternal struggle between divine order and chaos that defined Egyptian cosmology. Other passages parallel astronomical observations tied to Egypt's solar calendar, linking the king's reign to celestial cycles that governed temple rituals and agricultural seasons. The algorithms identified these recurring motifs by cross-referencing the Rosetta Stone against thousands of religious texts from the same period. The decree wasn't merely political propaganda. It positioned Ptolemy V within cosmic theology, presenting him as a living manifestation of divine harmony between earthly and celestial realms. To a Greek bureaucrat reading the stone, it proclaimed administrative competence. To an Egyptian priest trained in temple mysteries, it declared sacred continuity. The same inscription communicated on two completely different frequencies, with the deeper theological message invisible to anyone lacking initiatory knowledge. This dual resonance explains the extraordinary care taken in the stone's creation. It served both political authority and religious legitimacy simultaneously. But this wasn't just one artifact. Every text might be similarly compromised. And that means everything scholars thought they understood could be fundamentally wrong. If the Rosetta Stone's translations require revision, the implications cascade outward like cracks spreading through ice. The stone served as the foundational reference point for translating ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs for 2 centuries. Scholars used Champollion's framework to decode thousands of inscriptions across Egypt: temple walls, tomb chambers, papyrus scrolls, obelisks, stelae, administrative records, medical texts, astronomical tables, love poetry, religious hymns, funerary spells, every single translation built upon assumptions established by the Rosetta Stone. If those assumptions contained systematic biases or overlooked layers of meaning, then potentially every hieroglyphic text ever translated might need re-examination. Our entire reconstruction of ancient Egyptian civilization, from political history to religious beliefs to daily life, derives from translations that may have missed crucial nuances. The problem extends beyond Egypt. Researchers have begun applying similar AI analysis to other foundational ancient texts: the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Epic of Gilgamesh, Mayan codices, Sumerian tablets, early Buddhist sutras. Each reanalysis reveals subtle discrepancies, alternative readings, and meanings that previous generations of scholars couldn't detect. Religious texts present particularly sensitive challenges. Modern theological positions and spiritual practices often rest upon specific translations of ancient scriptures. If AI reveals that key passages have been consistently mistranslated for centuries, the doctrinal implications could be profound. Religious leaders watch these developments with understandable apprehension. Historical narratives face similar uncertainty. Understanding of ancient battles, trade relationships, political alliances, and cultural exchanges depends on accurate translation of primary sources. Did certain events happen as recorded? Were ancient rulers as benevolent or tyrannical as texts suggest? Were civilizations as isolated or interconnected as scholars believed? Every certainty becomes uncertain when the foundational translations that supported it come into question. The academic world is fracturing over these revelations, and the debate has turned vicious, threatening careers and reputations built over decades of scholarship. The academic response to AI findings has been intensely polarized, splitting the archaeological community into hostile camps, engaged in what some observers describe as an intellectual civil war. On one side stand researchers who embrace computational approaches. They argue that AI reveals truths human bias and limited pattern recognition have kept hidden for generations. These scholars point to the consistency of algorithmic findings across multiple independent systems and the way discoveries align with subtle anomalies that some experts had noticed but couldn't definitively prove. For them, this represents vindication of technological methodology and evidence that Egyptology needs fundamental restructuring. On the opposing side stand traditional Egyptologists who have dedicated entire careers to studying ancient Egyptian language and culture through conventional philological methods. Many express deep skepticism toward what they perceive as overconfident claims based on statistical analysis divorced from cultural and historical context. They argue that AI systems identify correlations but cannot truly understand meaning, that ancient texts require interpretive nuance algorithms simply cannot provide. Some senior scholars have accused AI researchers of sensationalizing minor variations to generate headlines and secure research funding. Others suggest that those promoting these findings lack sufficient grounding in Egyptian history to properly contextualize what the data actually means. The generational divide has become particularly pronounced. Younger academics, who grew up with computational tools, tend toward receptivity to AI findings. Older scholars who built reputations on traditional methods show greater resistance. But the split isn't simply age-based. Senior researchers enthusiastically embracing algorithms work alongside young scholars, warning against over-reliance on technology. What makes this debate so intense is its existential nature. This isn't merely about the Rosetta Stone, it concerns the future of an entire discipline. If AI findings demand serious consideration, then thousands of translations might require revision. Textbooks would need rewriting. Museum placard explanations would become outdated. Documentaries would contain errors. And careers built on expertise in those now questionable translations would face challenges to their fundamental authority. Nobody welcomes being told their life's work rested on incomplete or flawed foundations. The debate has spilled beyond academic journals into popular consciousness, sometimes in distorted forms that alarm scholars on both sides. As experts fight among themselves, others exploit the chaos for different purposes entirely. The conspiracy theories are spreading like wildfire. Whenever mainstream academic understanding faces challenges, fringe theories and conspiracy thinking inevitably follow. The AI discoveries about the Rosetta Stone have unfortunately been seized upon by various groups pushing alternative histories, And addressing this matters because it muddies legitimate scholarly debate. Some alternative history enthusiasts have interpreted the findings as evidence that ancient Egyptians possessed advanced technology or lost knowledge that mainstream archaeology deliberately suppresses. They point to the multi-layered hieroglyphic meanings and sophisticated encoding as proof of some advanced ancient civilization far beyond what conventional history acknowledges. To be clear, this fundamentally misrepresents what researchers actually discovered. Complex writing systems don't require supernatural explanations. They represent human intelligence and cultural development over centuries. Egyptian priests were brilliant, not alien-influenced. Another conspiracy angle suggests scholars have known about these discrepancies for years, but deliberately concealed them to protect academic reputations and institutional authority. This cynical view ignores how science actually functions. Researchers build successful careers precisely by finding new things and challenging old assumptions. The notion of a massive cover-up spanning centuries and involving thousands of independent scholars across different countries defies logical possibility. There has also been unfortunate conflation of legitimate AI findings with ancient astronaut theories claiming pyramids were built by extraterrestrials or lost civilizations. Some content creators have mixed genuine archaeological research with wild speculation about secret messages supposedly revealing advanced astronomical knowledge or predicting future events. This sensationalism does real damage. It makes distinguishing between genuine discoveries and fantasy increasingly difficult for general audiences. When actual scholars point out genuine uncertainties or areas where understanding needs refinement, conspiracy theorists interpret that as validation of their wildest claims. This creates a vicious cycle. Researchers become reluctant to publicly discuss limitations or uncertainties in their work, which ironically undermines the scientific process of questioning and refinement that drives progress. What needs emphasis is that science advances by constantly testing and improving understanding. Finding that previous interpretations of the Rosetta Stone missed certain nuances isn't evidence of conspiracy. It's evidence the scientific method works exactly as intended. New data emerges. Better tools develop. Understanding improves over time. That's not weakness. That's the fundamental strength of scientific inquiry. Discovering we misunderstood aspects of an ancient artifact doesn't mean everything we know is false. It means knowledge evolves as humanity's analytical capabilities advance. So what's really true amid the noise? What can actually be trusted? Stripping away hysteria reveals what actually matters about how technology is transforming our understanding of the past. Beyond the controversy surrounding the Rosetta Stone, artificial intelligence is genuinely transforming archaeology in remarkable ways. Satellite imagery analyzed by neural networks has uncovered entire ancient settlements invisible to traditional ground surveys. In Egypt, algorithms identified previously unknown pyramid sites buried beneath sand. In Peru, they revealed Nazca lines too faint for human eyes. Across Southeast Asia, AI mapped lost cities swallowed by jungle centuries ago. Machine vision systems are reconstructing fragmented pottery by matching broken pieces across museum collections worldwide. Chemical analysis algorithms identify pigments in ancient artwork, revealing how colors have changed over millennia. Three-dimensional modeling reconstructs damaged statues, showing what monuments looked like before weathering and vandalism. In linguistics, AI maps language evolution across thousands of years, connecting modern words to ancient roots and revealing how civilizations influenced each other through trade and conquest. These advances accelerate archaeological progress dramatically. What once required decades of painstaking comparison now happens in hours. But these technological leaps carry ethical responsibilities. Nations whose heritage fuels these discoveries deserve equal access to the tools and interpretations. Digital colonialism, where technology-rich institutions control ancient knowledge, poses modern challenges requiring thoughtful solutions. Technology isn't the enemy of archaeology. It's a tool that, properly used, can deepen understanding and democratize access to humanity's shared past. But tools can be misused, oversold, or misinterpreted. And what researchers do next with these capabilities determines everything about how history gets told. So what exactly is not good about AI's reanalysis of the Rosetta Stone? Not danger, not conspiracy, not catastrophe. The uncomfortable truth is simpler. Everything scholars confidently claimed to understand about this foundational artifact contained gaps, assumptions, and limitations invisible until now. The not good part is realizing how much certainty was built on incomplete translation. How many museum explanations oversimplified complex truths. How fragile our knowledge of ancient civilizations actually is. AI hasn't destroyed our understanding of Egypt. It has revealed how much remains unknown. History isn't a solved puzzle gathering dust in museums. It's alive, constantly being rewritten as new tools expose what previous generations missed. The Rosetta Stone isn't finished speaking. The question is whether we're ready to hear what it's really saying.